And thank you to you all for joining for today's session. Hopefully we can have an informative session, and also, as JP mentioned, is as best as possible. We want to make it a bit interactive, so if you do have any questions, please hold them to the end or type them into the chat panel, and we'll get to as many as we possibly can. As JP mentioned, today we'll talk about the build versus buy debate and some best practices when it comes to EHS and quality management to sort of frame the specifics of what you're building and what you might buy. So in today's session, we'll talk about some common questions that you probably have when you're facing sort of this decision of what direction to take to solve some of your EHS or quality management needs. First of all, why should you use software at all? Kind of what's the point, if you will. We'll also talk about really those fundamental two options that you have to you, which are a homegrown, quote-unquote, built solution versus a commercial off-the-shelf software solution. We'll talk about kind of the table stakes, or perhaps thinking of it another way, the minimum requirements or the minimum objectives and expectations that you should have of any solution that you do decide to go with. And we'll talk about some of the more advanced capabilities or more advanced expectations and outcomes and objectives that you can have with your EHS or quality data management platforms. So I did just mention data there, so I wanted to start with the big buzzword. Really, this is the buzzword in industry and kind of all industries and in business, and that buzzword is big data. We're talking about big data, but unfortunately, big data in and of itself really is just a marketing buzzword. Marketing buzzwords, at the end of the day, they might sound good in a marketing brochure or maybe even in a PowerPoint presentation, but in terms of relevance, it may not actually be applicable to you. So what is big data all about? Big data, in a sense, to me, is kind of about Brad Pitt. And not Brad Pitt per se, but one of the best use cases or examples of big data and the value of big data is in this idea of Moneyball. Great movie, even better book. And in the movie Moneyball and in the book Moneyball, it's really all about how Billy Beane and the Oakland Athletics have taken what has been, one of the most gut-driven industries in the world, which is professional sports, specifically professional baseball, and moving away from purely gut-driven decisions around how to build a team, how to build a championship, and how to win a championship, and actually looking at data and trying to use science and the availability of data and information to make smarter and arguably better decisions to build a baseball team, rather than just looking at the eyeball test, which a lot of professional sports scouts and coaches talk about when they're looking at prospects, teenagers, university students, etc. Looking at statistics and using analysis of not only metrics around performance, ERA, pitch count, and things like that, but also overlaying some of these big data elements, other statistics and other information that can be merged and mixed and matched with those statistical information to be able to make interesting decisions. So moving away from just the eyeball test of what arm mechanics might look like, and actually going towards a world where you can look at statistics around pitch count and correlate them and compare and contrast those statistics with numbers maybe associated with the weather. What does this pitcher look like? How does he perform at certain altitudes? How does this pitcher perform at certain pitch counts plus certain temperatures? And what that allows us to do, and what that allowed Billy Beane to do, is unlock a completely previously untapped resource and fundamentally make more interesting decisions. And that methodology or that way of thinking is starting to permeate the world of business, and luckily it's also starting to permeate the world of environment, health and safety, and quality management too. And that's what we'll talk a little bit more about. You have a significant challenge. You probably have a very similar challenge to the one that I'm facing. This, admittedly, and JP can attest to that, is my desk. And frankly, it's a little bit of a mess. I deal with data on a daily basis. I deal with decisions on a daily basis, and I have to access data to help inform those decisions. Unfortunately, as you can see in this picture that I took the other day, a lot of my data resides on paper, piles of paper, stacks of paper, in fact, and a lot of my analysis is done either manually or with my computer calculator, or if it's more sophisticated, Excel. When you net that out, what that means is I'm doing really manually intensive work to try to get that data and try to get the value of that data out and try to make decisions. And what that results in is the value that my data holds really is hidden. And this is a common challenge that I've seen, and I've spoken to many of our customers and prospects about, related to environment, health and safety, and quality management as well. It's not a matter of not having that data. Really, oftentimes, it's a matter of accessing that data and getting more out of that data. And the reason why is, you haven't been able to go down this path. This is a simple model here. It may look a little bit overwhelming, may look a little bit complex, but these are the baby steps that can be taken or should be taken to be able to unlock the value of these massive pools of data. Whether you're myself, trying to deal with some of the data that I have distributed through my laptop and on my desk, or if you're an EHS professional.